Welcome to the Inspired Podcast, presented by Living Sisu.
I started telling people in my entourage, my friends, oh yeah, I'm gonna go do a hike. People are like, wait, you're crazy, man. You're like, you're not gonna work for a year. You're gonna leave like, 100,000 plus salary on the table because you're gonna go hike. That's insane. And the more people were telling me this, I'm like, you know what? I gotta do it.
No matter who you are, what sport you play, or the level you're at, we all have one thing in common. We have to overcome adversity and tough challenges. Welcome to the Sisu Mindset. Hey everybody, this is Zach Fucali, one of your hosts with the Inspired Podcast by Living Sisu, also co-founder of Living Sisu. Today I'm with John Cadet, our guy. How you doing, brother?
I'm really good. And how are you doing?
Honestly, had a great day. It was one of the hottest days we've had in months here. Been outside, got some sun. It was great, man. I'm really happy about it. How about you?
Great day. Work, a lot of work at school. The spring break just ended. So a lot of stuff with the little children, but everything is perfect. And also, man, this conversation we just had with Michael, it just pumped my day in a way I can't even imagine, man.
Honestly, it couldn't end a day in better kind of fashion because this guy, fashion because he also works with Lolë. Anyway, let's move on from that pun. No, honestly, Michael is an amazing human being from A to Z. He's done some pretty amazing things in his life. He hiked the Pacific Crest Trail and lived in over 63 countries, lived in, if I'm guessing really quickly, 7 or 8 different countries. And he told us about his journey on the Pacific Crest Trail, and what were your takeaways of it?
What I really took about with this conversation is the word present. Michael is such a guy in the present moment. He lives in the present. He wants to enjoy the present moment, and this is something I've learned. This is something I'm going to take with me throughout my whole life, to enjoy the present moment, enjoy the process, what we're doing right now, and stop expecting the future and stop regretting the past,
Yeah, and he talks about living in the moment at the end, but that was at the end, right? Because we started all the way from the beginning of his journey when he first kind of committed to doing this 4,600 or so. I think it's 2,600 miles.
It's a lot.
Which is almost 5,000 kilometers. It's unreal what he was telling us during the whole conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed. I think he had some challenges he faced. Sometimes he hit a wall where he almost quit. 2 weeks of rain he had to go through, and even things that he's still living to this day because of this hike. So he gave us some pretty cool insight, pretty epic human being. Really, really happy we got a chance to talk to him today. So again, John, if you have anything else to add, I think that we should just get right into it.
I just wanted people to enjoy this conversation. Have fun. Rewind if you need to. Just listen to everything Michael will be saying.
Yeah, absolutely. So Michael also works with Lolë, our partner at Living Sisu. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Enjoy it, and we'll talk to you after, you guys. All right, let's get into it. Just before we start, just a little reminder to follow Living Sisu on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And go on our website, livingsisu.com, to have access to all offers by our partners for free. Remember to keep learning, get access, and activate. Talk later, everybody. Hey, everybody. Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Not too bad. Happy to be talking with you guys tonight.
Oh yeah, John and I are really excited about this particular interview because it's exciting stuff. We've chatted to a lot of different types of people, but not somebody that's done this particular trail. And we're going to get into it, your whole journey, your whole story. But John, please kick us off with our usual icebreaker question. Go ahead.
So, happy to meet you, Mike. You know what? I'll be just like all the audience that will be listening to us. For me, it's the first time we're seeing each other. So if I have to ask you, my first question would be, how would you define yourself in 3 words?
First one is definitely passion. Second one is travel. And I guess the third one, you would ask my ex-girlfriends and they would probably tell you intensity. So, and probably passion and intensity are the same thing, but I think those three words would probably describe like my whole life so far.
That's awesome.
I want to piggyback on the second word, travel, because I know, but I want the people to know. Just tell us, how many countries did you visit in your whole life?
It's funny because a while back there was a Facebook advert that you could buy a map where you could scratch the countries that you've been to. Okay. So I bought this map. I got it 2 months later, and I started scratching these countries, and I'm like, holy cow, I'm at like 63 countries. And 63, yeah. And I'm still in pretty good shape. So I might have a chance at some point to visit even like all countries and even go to North Korea. So yeah, 63 countries.
Yeah, you say it's funny you say that. You say, yeah, I'm still young, I'm still in good shape, but hey, just 2 years ago you do the whole Pacific Crest Trail, which is pretty impressive feat. Over 2,600 kilometers. Like that's a pretty intense.
That's 2,600 miles.
Miles. Sorry, no, my bad. That's 4,600 if I'm not mistaken, or in that ballpark. Yeah, you got to convert the miles there.
Yeah.
But honestly, yeah, you say you're still in good shape. Well, 2 years ago you did that. We want to get into that, and I think that's so cool, the journey and the challenges you went through. But first of all, John, I think you wanted to ask how you did it, but I want to know first, before we get into it, why you wanted to get into that.
Okay, so I'll make a long story short. Just give me 2 minutes to explain. I was working for a company that at some point I woke up one morning and I was like, you know what? I don't believe in these corporate values. I don't believe in some of the behaviors that are tolerated. I resigned, and I could, I had my 3-month cushion that gave me like this flexibility of looking around. I started doing some interviews. I wasn't falling in love with any of the CEOs or the executive teams that I was interviewing with. And I stumbled upon an old photo album, and I, like, the last time I opened it, I think I was 22, and I had a bucket list, right? And I'm looking at this bucket list. I'm like, wow, Mike, you've done a lot of stuff. And I think my item number 7 or number 8 is do a long hike. But what is a long hike? So I go on Google, which wasn't really available when I was like 21. And I Google long hike, and this Pacific Crest Trail comes up. And after that, it's the trail featured in the movie with Reese Witherspoon, the movie Wild. Okay. And so that night I watch Wild, and I'm like Googling this, and these insane ideas come to mind. And I'm like, man, look, you don't have any children. You don't have, like, you should do this. So the next weekend I go to a outdoor sports shop, and the manager of the shop says, hey, one of my part-timers did part of it. So I bring him out for coffee. He tells me about his, like, he did 2 months, and he's like, it's going to change you. It's going to change your life. The week after a few more interviews where it's not really connected, I go back to that sports shop and I buy for like $3,000 worth of equipment. And the next Monday, I'm at the gym on a treadmill with a 40-pound backpack, and I start my training. And that's how, and people usually think in advance, like 2-3 years in advance before doing this trail. I did it in a span of 2 weeks.
You trained only for 2 weeks?
Yeah. No, I trained actually for 6 weeks. But the thought process of deciding to do this, it was done in 2 weeks. So, and then I started telling people in my entourage, my friends, oh yeah, I'm going to go do a hike. People are like, what? You're crazy, man. You're like, you're not going to work for a year. You're going to leave like, 100,000 plus salary on the table because you're going to go hike. That's insane. And the more people were telling me this, I'm like, you know what? I got to do it. Because people were technically telling me you're not gonna succeed. Come on, Michael, it's 4,500 kilometers. How are you gonna get through it?
Like,
are you nuts?
What, are you crazy?
Like, are you in a depression? Is there something that happened in your life? Yeah. And I said, you know what? No, it's something I gotta do now. Because, like a few years, like 2 years before, I'd lost my dad, and that was unexpected. So I'm like, you never know when life is gonna end. So if I'm not going to wait till I'm 65 to do this trail, let's do it now. I got the financial flexibility, and I said, let's go at it.
That's awesome. And I find that, like, what I just asked you, like, what are you, crazy? Like, that's probably the first thought that pops into everybody's head when you hear something like that. But I find that so absurd, because why not? Like, you just said it, why does a 4,500 kilometer walk basically sound crazy to us? I don't know. That's just a question I have, but it shouldn't be, it should be like, yeah, okay, cool. Let's go out in the wilderness. It should be kind of mainstream.
Well, you're outside of the norms. That's what it is. You're outside of the norms. And as soon in our society, the moment you get outside that square box, people look at you funny, Okay, what? You don't have a house? You don't have your mortgage payments? You don't have your what? What are you going to do with that? Look, I had a Jeep Wrangler that I loved. I sold it. And I sold it to a 70-year-old guy who wanted to have his first experience with a Jeep Wrangler. I sold my Jeep. I sub-rented to a student who's doing his internship in Montreal, my condo. So everything worked out pretty good in bringing this project and starting it off.
Well, the question that pops into my mind, and it's by reading your blog that I'm having this question actually, all right? And because you said something, I was reading your postmortem, after you did your hike, and the
debriefing, as we would say, pretty much.
and you wrote something that really resonated with me, because I didn't really understand the thought process. So that's why I wanted to ask you the question. You said that a lot of people ask you, well, why did you do it? Were you empty? Did you needed to feel something and everything? And you just said, no, I was having a pretty good life. It's just that I didn't feel accomplished. You didn't feel challenged throughout your whole life. So that's what if I want to use your exact words, you said, I had a really good, even if I had a really, really good life, was I really alive? And I want you to piggyback on that, because for a lot of people, doing some amazing things, you need a huge spark, something tremendous that happened in your life, either depression or either the loss of someone, but it wasn't your case. So how did you find all that motivation to still do this hike?
Well, it's a question that you wake up one morning and you're in motions, right? Okay, so I was able to go skiing in the Alps 1 week per year. I had my 2 or 3 weeks vacation during the summer, went to Croatia, went to all these amazing places. You wake up on Monday morning, you go to work, you come back, you have like a really nice dinner, or you go to happy hour on Thursdays. So you wake up and you're like, when was the last time that I was afraid of failure? Like waking up and saying, am I going to succeed in this? It's like, when I was doing university sports, I think that's when I had like the last thrill and fear of not making it. I had a really good professional career. I've always been headhunted for the jobs that I've had. Never any worries about money. And so you wake up one morning, you're like, okay, I need like a shot of adrenaline, but not chemically enhanced. I need a natural one. And so that gave it to me, because in the hike, when you follow the blog, it didn't take long for me to find my first brick wall on the trail when I had a major toe infection. So I wake up one morning and my toe's a little bit red, and 3 days later I'm at the hospital in Palmdale, California, and the doctor says, if you would have waited another week, I was cutting off your toe and partially part of your foot. So I was 10 days off trail, and now you're thinking, okay, 10 days. So that pushes me in the rain season in northern Washington, and snow and whatever winter conditions you might face. So, okay, am I better off to quit, or do I continue? I continued. For me, it was like, no, you can't. You've done all these sacrifices. You got to start. You got to continue, right? That's the dream.
That's what happened. So on this podcast, the Inspire podcast, you know, and the whole concept with living Sisu in the community, it's all about inspiring the next and sharing stories of determination, resilience, and all these things that we're talking about right now, right? And that can be chalked down to more of a mental aspect of sport, of, you know, the inner strength that you need. And that's kind of where we were heading just now is yeah, you have the why you did it. You did it 2 weeks notice. You did a little physical preparation before you went, and all of a sudden you're hit with this wall and you have to make a decision. But did you do any mental preparation before you started that helped you when you hit that first wall? Was there anybody that helped you, or you read like something to help you mentally face with that?
Well, my childhood idol has always been Andre Agassi. Okay, and you read his book, which is one of the best.
Open.
If you have to read one book in your life about an autobiography, read Andre Agassi's book. Okay,
It's called Open, I believe.
yes, Open, and what he went through in the thought process of still with everything he went through in making it. I read Open before starting the trail. I had 2 books in my iPod for audiobooks, and Open was one of them. And for me, it was just what is your end goal? Okay. And you always, that's how I prepared. So my end goal is to be at the Canadian border of Washington and BC by the 25th of September. Okay. After that, you do some reverse engineering. You say how to get there is, it's 32 kilometers per day. Okay. You're allowed every 8 or 9 days to take a day off and relax because your body hurts. So I was just decomposing this trail on a daily basis. Wake up at 5 a.m. Okay. I gave myself 15 minutes to let the body sort of like soothe over. I had my peanut butter sandwich, my Pop-Tarts, and by 6 a.m. I was out. But that was systematic. I didn't want to digress from that, because you deviate. If you deviate once, it's easy after to say, oh, okay, I'll stay in my 10 till 7.
You let yourself off the hook, and that's a slippery slope where you give yourself one liberty, and then all of a sudden you gave yourself a moment off of that discipline. You were so, like you stick to it so much, you let yourself off the hook one time, and now your body, that's kind of how our brain is made up. It wants to go to the easiest path possible.
Totally.
It's always looking for the easiest path possible. And there's so many people that are listening to us right now, like they might have had a situation similar to yours, and they kind of like the fact that how you approached that. You broke it down, right? You made it into smaller segments. You said, hey, look, this is what it's going to take to get there. If I go away from that, I just won't make it. So what's the alternative? So that's kind of how you worked, right? You kind of gave yourself a little a discipline you can't deviate from.
I still remember at the hospital when the emergency room doctor was basically taking all the skin, and there's a picture of that in my blog, and he's basically taking off all the picture of my little toe. And I'm like, it's raw. There's no more skin on my toe. And I asked the doctor, I said, okay, with the antibiotics, how long do I have to stay off trail? He says, now just give it 2 days. If you can support the pain, go for it. And 2 days later, I was back on trail. Because what you have to understand when you're doing like a long hike is every day you're off and you're not hiking, you're adding additional kilometers every day for the rest of your trip.
Compounds, right?
Yeah, well, of course. and at some point when you get in northern Washington, it's like the Rocky Mountains. There you have some pretty high mountains, and if you're there in October, you got to be ready with the snowshoes. You got to be ready with full-fledged winter gear. And that is not fun hiking conditions when you still have another 2 weeks in those conditions to do. And I didn't want to face that. For me, I was like, there's no way that I was going through that. Because
let's break that down, right? Like, let's say you had to face that, or actually, did you have to, or you kind of beat that kind of time frame?
No, it's funny you say that. I didn't get the snow in Washington State, but like the first part of my journey, the first like almost 3 months, I had zero rain. Okay. Didn't face a single thing of rain in Southern California and California. But when I got to Washington, I got 2 weeks straight of rain. Okay. And when you're walking a through hike, you have 3 pairs of socks. You have 2 pairs of merino, base layers. But when they're wet, they're wet. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So I basically walked in wet gear for a whole 2 weeks, which wasn't fun, which gave me intense pain, like in my feet, because the friction with the skin. And at some point you're like, and you start walking funny because, you know, your feet start to hurt, your shins start to hurt. And the last 2 weeks, because of this rain, I was on like 25 Advils per day, because I couldn't feel my legs. And even today, the doctor said, I saw the doctor a few months back. He says, Michael, yes, because you're the pressure of the walking, you're never going to feel. I lost sensation in all of my toes. It's never going to come back. And that's because of the rain that I faced in Washington.
Well, let me ask you that question though, and I want to ask you this question. And that question, even I think Zach can answer it, because for someone who's not an athlete, and I think, Michael, you're an athlete, to do that kind of hike, I don't care.
I'm not an athlete. No.
Stop it.
Well, John, maybe he did something athletic, but he doesn't identify as an
walking
athlete.
40,000 kilometers for me, you're not. Well,
40,000.
you're close to an athlete, okay? You're close to what we call an athlete, okay? But
yeah, he earned it. He earned it.
For someone who's not an athlete, so let's say someone who's listening to us who's not an athlete, it's tough to understand, you know, the mental fortitude that you guys have, all right? And it's easy for us to say, well, why did you continue? You know, let's say you're facing adversity in something, and it's easy for us to say, well, why don't you just quit, you know? So I want to ask you that question. Why, when you had all those difficulties, why did you continue? Why?
Yeah, what was your motivation to
keep exactly.
Well, I could still ask myself the question now. I had the excuses. You know, every week, you know, I once I fell, I hurt my ribs. I had the excuse. I could have gone back, you know, and come back to much. Oh yeah, you know, after 2,000 kilometers, I fell and it hurts and I couldn't do it anymore. But at the end of the day, nobody can take away the fact that I did this trail from A to Z. Nobody can take that away from me. And that was my main motivation to have, and maybe it's egocentric, maybe it's not the best reason, but I wanted to have something that I thought, my God, this is cool. You did something.
Yeah. And Michael, I'm have to interject here because I completely disagree that it's egocentric. I really do. I think like there's too much media nowadays that everybody gets a pat on the back for whatever they do, and there's a lot of people these days that are having issues with just their overall mentality, and they can't get motivated by themselves, and it always has to come from a video, and it has to come from mom and dad and your friend, and it has to come. But at the end of the day, you're the only person inside your own head. You're the only person that can live your life, and at the end, with all that being said, it has to come from inside you to go through that. Nobody was going to make you walk those 4,000 something kilometers. Nobody was going to do that other than you. And nowadays it's so easy to just say, oh, well, no, I almost lost a foot. I can't do it. I couldn't do it. But you know, and that's valuable to you. You know, when you look in the mirror, you go up, you wake up, you know, you went through something that most people would have quit at. You did it.
Well, there's only
that's valuable. So I don't think it's egocentric at all. And I think that's something a lot of people could get insane amount of kind of inspiration out of just your thought process and all that. So I don't think you should repeat that it's egocentric. I think it's real admirable and real inspirational. And that's, it can't be more Sisu than that. You dug deep, right? And that's what we talk about on this podcast is what brings you to dig deep.
Look, you guys talk about the physical challenge. Yes, there was a physical challenge, but you would ask me, Michael, what is it that you're the most proud of on this hike? And I would tell you, it's right.
That was coming later, but yeah, okay, let's just add that right now.
Yeah, well, look, the way we're going, I think we can talk in any. But I'm saying is the fact that I wrote every single day, and I made it mandatory. When you've hiked for 8 hours in a day, you set up your tent. I did my tortilla things with peanut butter and Nutella. I ate that. Your body just wants to shut down and sleep. Okay. But I told myself, I said, okay, Michael, you're doing this hike. You got to keep a memory, either for your future children, either for whoever wants to read this in the future. And I think what I'm proud of is, yes, completing it, but I also wrote every single day. So on my blog, you have day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. Most hikers, they start off with the blog and they quit after a week because they think it's too hard.
Right.
So for
just
me,
the fact that writing, it just gets
yeah. Oh no. And sometimes I go back to the blog and just to reminisce, and I'm like, wow, this is, and I'm so happy that I put my thoughts down on paper for this hike. I think that's my biggest accomplishment is taking the time of writing it. After that, when I got into town, when I need to do like grocery shopping or I need to like, take a shower, I would go online with my phone and I would type it on my blog, like on the phone. And I would spend like if I had 8 free hours when I was taking a day off, I would spend it on my phone writing writing the blog.
Wow. And that's really cool. But again, we go back to the discipline that you had through that.
But every look, I'm like a senior leader in human resources, so I help employees, in their careers. I've also spoken to to students, and when somebody asks me, so Michael, what's the secret? Let's say I want to become like a director next year. What I want. It's discipline. It's like, you get at 5:00, or if it's 5:15, you want to go home, but there's like 2 other important emails that you should be sending. You're not going to stay at work till 10, but you just need to stay till 5:25. Are you going to take the time to send those 2 last emails that are going to put you on the top? I think everything revolves around discipline. I think just like the relationship with your girlfriend or your wife revolves around discipline. Making time for your significant other. When you stop being disciplined about that, it breaks down. And I think all spheres in life are a little bit structured, are a little bit based on that discipline. And I'm not talking military discipline, but just,
just casual life kind of discipline. And I think, that's why for me, sports and art are something that everyone should practice, even if you don't do it professionally. When you practice a sport, you need to train yourself, you need to train your body. You have to have that kind of discipline. Even if, let's say, you do recreational hockey, you play hockey only on Tuesday. Yeah, but you know that if I play hockey on Tuesday, then I might not eat that McDonald's on Monday. You know what I'm saying? I might not eat that fast food on this day. So I might go to bed early. Let's say you practice an art, you practice piano. Well, you know that, okay, well, I have my presentation on Friday. I have to practice on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So it helps you create that discipline that then you can, reinvest in every aspect of your life. Discipline, like you said, with your wife or your girlfriend, your children, at work, at school, and everything. So for me, that's one of the biggest reasons why everyone, even if it's not professionally, you need to practice a sport or you need to practice an art, even if you do it alone and by team, anyway, any kind of way, but it's so important.
And I'll go even a step further here. Sorry, Michael. Yeah. I'll go even a step further and say, we believe, especially at Living Sisu, we believe that sports, and Michael, you're the biggest proponent as well with Lolë and of having daily sports and daily physical activity. But I'll go a step further and say, hey, you don't just have to do sports or art. You have to do something maybe that you don't want to do. Something that's hard. That's discipline as well, because something that's hard is going to make you better. So sometimes you just got to do it no matter what. You got to find it inside to do something that's hard, something that might make you suffer a little bit, but in the end, you know that you're going to benefit from it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I know what I'm saying, but I'm going to challenge you on that. I'm going to tell you, most human beings have passions, love things, and they don't act on them. Okay?
But why are we like that?
Because I'm telling you, we get into a routine. It's like I take a look at some of my friends. They have a big house in downtown Montreal or in downtown Toronto, big mortgage payments. They got 2 or 3 nice cars. They might have a Rolex in their wrist, but they need to pay all of these things. But you get into this, like the hamster spinning, okay? And it's really hard to say, okay, you know what? I'm taking a step back. am I really happy being like a corporate lawyer and working 85 hours a week? You know, when I
Right.
wanted to be, when let's say I wanted to be a car salesman, I look, and that's what I try to tell people. And people say, you know, Michael, why you did it? You did this hike. What do you think I could do it? I said, well, maybe not a hike, but if you've always wanted to learn how to play the piano, sit in front of the piano. Even if you're 45, get a teacher, learn the basics of piano. The pleasure it will bring you will be tremendous.
Right. I'm with you 100%. And I'm glad you said that, because it's the story of a lot of people that they're living this great life on the exterior, but in the end, they're like, wait, maybe I should be doing something more, or just by incorporating something that's uncomfortable in their life, like, you know, getting out of that situation, or going to the gym. That's uncomfortable. You know, like there's things that are uncomfortable that in the end you're going to benefit from. So I'm happy you said that. John, is there anything else you wanted to add before we move on to the GOAT section?
One last
Oh yeah, you go ahead. Go ahead, please.
You know,
I don't want to stop you.
No, well, you know, I always say it. I think I said it in each episode. I'm a teacher, all right. So I'm always with people. I'm always surrounded with children or with colleagues. But I think you did your hike alone, right?
Yep.
So you've spent 4 months and a half alone, and I need you to tell me, how did it help? Well, did you want to do it alone? Were you?
Oh, yeah.
Did you meet people along the way?
No.
And
Okay.
and so on?
Yeah.
Excellent question. Okay. Excellent question. And when I did a few conferences, that was one of the questions that came up a lot. So yes, I wouldn't have done it with friends. I wanted to do it alone. And the way that I structured my days is, in the morning, I gave myself hours. Okay, Michael, let's take the next 60 minutes, analyze, and I'm just giving you ideas, okay? But just analyze what went wrong in your previous relationships. Okay, why didn't it work out with some of the previous women you've gone out with? And I started analyzing, because you got 8 hours to walk, so you got time to think, and you see trends. I'm like, oh, now I understand. Wrote that down. Okay. After that, when when I was in Oregon, I started thinking, okay, Michael, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? You want to go back to HR, or, you know, you what do you want to do? And I started analyzing. I said, what is it I love about my job? And recruiting people. I love the recruitment process of people. And I said, no, HR is the way to go. You're staying in HR. You're not going to go anywhere else. After that, I started thinking, okay, your lifestyle, when you get back to Montreal, how are you going to get out of this rat race in terms of owning all this material? And I said, okay, the day that I come back, I'm not getting a car right away. I'm going to give it 6 months to see if I really need a fancy car. And you know what? It's been, I just bought a brand new car a week ago, but I spent 2.5 years without a car. Okay. So it's all these little decisions that, you know, I thought about.
You took the time. You took the time to mull it over and to
mull it over,
digest, and
exactly. You know, my mother's getting older. I said, okay, so, you know, my mother's getting older. How can I take better care of my mom? Okay. So, and it might seem trivial, but it's important, you know, and I wrote that down. I said, make sure to have this chat with your mom. And there's some people that I thought about, some of the, not just, you know, girlfriend relationships, but just people that maybe I wasn't nice with them in the past. And I came back and I made some apologies. Okay. There's some people that I called back. I said, you know what? I liked you as a friend before and I did something wrong. My apologies, my bad. But I wanted you to know that I realized what I did was wrong. So this continuous thought process on a number of things,
aspects of your life. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I'm also lucky because, you know, some of the people that I met on trail, and I might become emotional now a little bit, but some of the people that I met on trail, the reason they did this trail, it's not to prove themselves, is something freaking major happened in their life. I met this couple from Australia. They were hiking because they lost their kids. and they needed to get away from everything. This other person comes in, start talking and say, oh, why are you hiking? Because you know what? I'm gay. And I need to give it some thought. I need to deal with that. Other people lost their jobs. Other people were in remission from cancer. And I was like, wow, I'm in a lucky position to be hiking this and having the luxury of thinking about my past relationships, and for me, yeah. Does that make sense?
You real grateful, right? Oh my goodness, does it ever? I mean, John would agree. I think we speak for both of us. Like, it really does make you grateful, and that's it kind of opens your eyes that there's so many different people out there and going through so much. And I'm going to come back to our major principles of this whole podcast, the whole Inspire podcast. The idea behind living Sisu is that no matter like what you do, who you are, the sport, the job, the level, no matter who you are, there's one thing every single one of us has to deal with, and it's going through shit, going through adversity, going through challenges. We all go through tough times. We all go through some tough decisions to make and life stuff. Life happens, right? Like, that's kind of what you're talking about. And everybody had a different life and their own challenges. But at the end of the day, we all need to figure out a way to go through it. And a lot of people chose hiking to do it. And it sounds like you found an amazing kind of silver lining to some past issues, some forward things that you wanted to kind of implement in your life. I think that's freaking awesome, man.
Well,
it's cool how you kind of said that.
And also, like, just until the day that I left, people were calling, are you sure you want to do this, Michael? Like, your opportunity cost, like the money you're leaving on the table by not working for a year. Mike, how are you going to gain that back? Nah. So I got back, and now I'm at the age where sometimes some of my friends, cancer starts appearing. There's health problems that start appearing. And I've been faced with situations in my circle of friends that I see these things happening, and I'm like, my Lord, am I ever grateful that I forced this decision on myself to do it at the age that I was? Because you don't know what's going to happen in 6 months from now. I might be diagnosed with whatever. So yeah, all this being said, to answer your question, I guess that would be the answer.
Yeah, that's so awesome. But John, I'm really happy you kind of stopped me and you asked that question, because it brought us to something really awesome. But now we're going to move on, Michael, to we used to call it the halftime show, but we always go through halftime. So we just call it the GOAT section, the greatest of all time section for you. Okay, so we ask the same questions to basically all of our guests. Yeah. And it makes us learn about their greatest of all time in different areas and aspects of their life. So I'll start us off today. I want to know your favorite book or movie or documentary. It could be related to sport or not, but that really inspired you.
Okay, I'll give you a book and I'll give you a movie. Is that okay?
You go ahead.
The book,
you're our guest. You decide.
The book is called Shantaram. Okay, it's the story of this Englishman in Australia that escapes jail, finds himself in India, becomes involved with the Indian mafia in Delhi, and the book is about 1,000 pages long, and it's one of the greatest adventure books you will ever read in your life. Okay, so just to any people who's listening to this. Listen to this book by audiobook, do whatever you want, but you have to read Shantaram once in your life. Okay.
And do you know the author for just throwing it out there? Do you know the author?
I'm drawing a blank. I'm going to try to remember. If somebody Googles it on their phone, we'll find the name of the author. And for the movie, I think Lost in Translation is probably one of the best Bill Murray movies ever. And I'm not saying it because of Scarlett Johansson, but really for Bill Murray in that movie is close to perfection for me. And also, like, I love traveling, and the movie is set in Tokyo. It's an impossible relationship between an older person and a younger person. And you get also a feel of the Japanese culture. It is a fascinating movie.
Awesome. John?
Gregory David.
Yes. Yeah. David. And that book is 80% true. Okay. It's been romanticized a little bit, but the book is 80% true in what he's done.
Shantaram. All right, I'm going with my question. Who's your favorite athlete of all time?
My favorite athlete of all time. So I guess you would have it. I'll split it in two. Idol, and Zach, that it's going to touch you a little bit because when I was growing up, I grew up with Patrick Roy. So for me, I was a goaltender when I was growing up in hockey, and there was nobody better. Anyways, I still remember the little wink in the '93 final. And for me, Patrick Roy is probably my childhood idol. And following that, I was a big tennis fan, so definitely Andre Agassi.
Awesome. What about the greatest sports performance of all time?
The greatest sports performance of all time. My God.
And it could be something amazing that you know of. That's
well, look, in terms of dynasty, I think I'll put it the greatest dynasty. There's two of them. There's the Bulls with Michael Jordan, and there's also the 5 consecutive Stanley Cups the Montreal Canadiens got. For me, as a whole, would be the greatest. Would be the greatest performances. You could go into much details, find some specific Wimbledon finals where McEnroe was playing. You could find those. But I think dynasties are so rare these days.
That's true.
Yeah, I need to put it as a whole because I think that would be.
I like that. That's an interesting take, and we haven't had anybody answer it this way before, so I like that a lot.
But sorry to interrupt. We got a little bit of time, and I think it won't be technically sports, but I think the few individuals who have jumped out of space with a parachute to falling for 10 minutes free fall. I think for me, that is also like Neil Armstrong.
That's some pretty intense living right there. Yeah. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Can't even jump from my bed. Imagine jumping from space.
That's a good way of putting it.
All right, John, you go ahead.
Hey, I want to ask you this question. It's part of what we call our legacy segment, if I can say it like that. But here I'm trying to find a good way to say it. Okay, I'm really pro inclusive guy. Okay, and I think diversity and l'inclusion. I don't know how to say it in English, but I think it's not only loving other people, but it's integrating a part of all the culture in your daily life, and talking with someone who visits 63 countries, I think that you did integrate a lot of all the kind of cultures in your daily life. So I want to ask you this question. What is the biggest lesson or the strongest lesson, the best thing you've learned from another culture that you're still using right now and that really benefit you and maybe helped you hike?
Okay, so I'll give you a specific example. I was able to work for Qatar Airways, and I was living in Doha, Qatar.
Okay.
So I guess my advice would probably come from that experience because that was my hardest and most difficult expat experience in my whole life, because their philosophy of living is fundamentally, in some areas, very different from what we've been used to in Canada, for the place of women, and I was from the get-go, when I accepted that job, I didn't have any children, I didn't have a girlfriend, so I said it's a perfect situation to try this, right? And I got there, and I remember one of the senior executives at Qatar Airways, who was German, says, Michael, your first 3 months are probably going to be your 3 hardest months in your life, because you're going to see things that are fundamentally attacking your values, okay? And just observe, okay? Try to understand, be empathy, not sympathy. There's a difference between the two. Use some empathy to try to understand where it's coming from. And a year from now, you're going to be more equipped in determining if you're willing to live with that way of living, or if you need to get out of that context and go either, because before I was living in Switzerland, so either go back to Switzerland or come back to Canada. I made the decision after a year that some of the things I was seeing, I could not tolerate. I decided to leave. Okay. Mm-hmm. So for me, like what I saw on trail or wherever sphere in my life, I always give it the observation phase. Observe. And after that, you'll be equipped in making a decision.
I love it.
That's how I would answer your question.
That's an awesome lesson through everything you've been through. Like, just to kind of recap for people, is that you've lived in, okay, I have the list up here. Let's go. Let's do it. Austria, England, US, Malta. What else? Oh, wait.
I've worked in Japan.
All these countries.
I've worked in Japan, in the US. I've been all over Europe. And I've been sorry?
And you visited over 63 countries, right? So for people, like, this has been a great lesson that you just shared, is just give it time to just observe.
But it's okay.
Often everything's moving.
Yes, but it's observe. But at the end, it's okay not to tolerate a certain behavior, and you get out of this context. Because in Qatar, and even I was doing some pilot recruitment in Saudi Arabia also, you had some expats that for them, certain behaviors were okay. And they were in Qatar for like 10 years, 12 years. Good for them. But you have to be equipped, because I don't believe in making decisions on hearsay or, oh, no, I don't no. When I talk to people about what's going on in the Middle East, I know what I'm talking about. I saw it on a daily basis, and I was equipped in making that decision.
Right. No, I'm with you 100%. And by the way, I forgot Switzerland, which is a pretty cool country for people that have been there. But if you like skiing and all those stuff, anyway. But no, I think that's awesome, because at the end of the day, everything in our lives moving so fast, right? It's like, go here, I got an appointment, texting, guess, call me, text me, do this, that. It's so fast, right? But rarely do we just sit and observe what's going on. We give it time to just look at what's going on, take some time to just analyze, and then make a call. You know what I mean? And sometimes I feel like that needs to be a little bit more mainstream. Kind of if we're going back to one of the beginning of our conversation where we were talking about like bringing adversity and challenges more to the forefront, because we all go through it. Like, we should be taking more time to just observe and give it time and not just rush through everything, right? Do you feel like everybody's rushing through everything all the time, Michael?
Well, you can see it on a daily basis. You can see on a daily basis, if it's not the children, it's the dog. If it's not the dog, it's the cat. If it's not the condo downtown Montreal, it's the chalet in Tremblant, or it's a chalet, your country house, wherever you are. And it's a race. And when you get that, the next thing you wanted, okay, well, what's next? People aren't even enjoying, are not even enjoying what they have, So after 2.5 years, I got myself another Jeep, okay? And I could tell you, when I took it out for a spin, I put my favorite song on, and the level of happiness that I had because I was driving my Jeep, but I had the anticipation of it for 2.5 years. Right. Now I'm going to enjoy it. I worked for it, it wasn't just a given, to me. And that's why that's also I try to do on a professional level, is to try to enjoy the moment. Like at Lolë right now, we're outside of a big bankruptcy, but things are looking good for us. I'm involved in a number of things in the organization, but I'm enjoying the moment. There are times where yes, I have like 52 things to do in a day, but I stop and I'm like, this is what you wanted. You wanted to be involved in more than just HR, to have like impact on marketing, on social media. And I'm like, hey, you have it.
Impact people.
Yeah. Enjoy it, and I think that's what people don't take enough time to, enjoy the moment.
I like that. I like that a lot. And I want to be really like respectful of your time. I mean, I think we could talk for a long, but we could start to wrap it up. I want to get your final thoughts on, this is usually one of the last things we ask our guests is John, you asked kind of where the biggest lesson of your your challenges, your journey so far. But I'd like to know a different angle to that is what do you want to leave behind, right? Like, what are people going to remember Michael Charest for? You know what I mean?
You see, and it's interesting you asked that question, because I also had that thought on trail. I say, let's say I get into an accident, I fall in a ravine and I die. What would my funeral look like? You know, and what would people say? And I think you would ask anybody that either very close to me or a little bit, back from university, and they would tell you, Michael is intensity. Like, Michael's lived, Michael is like 45, but he's had the life of 3 or 4 people. And I think that's what I want to live behind. My brother's kids, my brother has 2 young kids. And I hope that one day I'm going to be able to bring him, somewhere exotic on this planet and travel with him and given this, in French, we have la soif de vivre, this thirst of life, to take the time to jump on a plane last minute, and making it happen. I understand that some people have kids, but I can tell you that some of my good friends were traveling like halfway around the world with a kid that was 3 years old or even 5 years old, and they still did it.
That's awesome.
They still did it.
That's awesome.
They still did it. So I think that's what I would love for my brother's children to remember. Hey, mon Uncle Michael. Wow, man, what a life he's had. And let's try to do some of the stuff that he's done.
A fraction of what Michael did, and we'll be happy.
Yeah, but I've been been lucky, and I got to thank my mom for it. Probably, when I was younger, we moved quite a bit. I lived out west. I lived in Edmonton and Winnipeg. Grew up there, and I think it's a lot my mom that brought me this thirst of the unknown and the thirst of of discovering. So I think that's what I would like. That's what I would love to leave behind. And possibly, if the health is good, maybe in 2 years, because in the US, you have 3 main trails. You have the Pacific Crest Trail. You have the Continental Divide Trail. That's sort of like in the middle of the Rockies. And you also have the Appalachian Trail, which does Georgia all the way to Maine. Okay. And if you're able to complete 3 of them, they award you a symbolic Triple Crown. Okay. And maybe one day I can get that Triple Crown.
Well, you know what? That's awesome. And would you do that by yourself? Because I would hop on. I would follow you on the second one.
No.
I want to participate.
You got to win some hockey games, my friend. So
yeah, I'm a little bit busy right now, but maybe in the future I'm going to be able to come on some of those hikes. But before we let you go, Michael, I want to say thank you. You've taught me some pretty valuable lessons. I hope people, really enjoyed hearing you talk about your journey, because it wasn't always pretty. You almost lost a foot or a few toes, if I remember well. So, I mean, no, that's really awesome. Super cool conversation from A to Z. But before we go, I want you to talk a little bit about Lolë and your work there and the partnership we have with Living Sisu and you, and what are some scoops you can give us in the upcoming months before summer.
Look, I'll be very honest, with the pandemic, at some point, things didn't look too good for Lolë. I can tell you now that the wind is in our sail. We went to market for some new designers in the States. Our new collection for fall winter 21-22 is going to be awesome. We also got a designer to get to go big time into men's. So we're going to have like an amazing collection for men's. And the partnership with you guys is simple. Do cool activities so people can do some cool stuff. Okay. If it's hiking, if it's mountain biking, if it's ice skating in Central Park, I don't care, but Lolë's going to be there and we're going to do, some of these activities together, and it's going to be cool. Okay. I just want people to have fun. Okay. And do cool. And I don't want to use the word, but maybe we're on a podcast. I can say cool shit. People need to do cool shit.
Yeah.
Okay. So
100%.
That's what I want to do, and start moving. And it's just maybe with one activity, somebody's going to say, you know what? I love this hike. I'm going to go hiking next weekend. And after that, they realized it's been 5 weekends in a row that they've been hiking. And they'll realize that when they're hiking, even if it's a small mountain, it clears their head. They come back and refreshed on the Monday morning. They even bring their children, whatever it is. Let's do some cool shit together.
Awesome. Honestly, I think we should end it right there, John. What do you think?
I mean, you said it all. Let's end it right there. You said it all. Thank you so much for
Did he ever?
Michael.
Hey, Michael, thank you so much. Have a good night. John, it was a pleasure again to share the mic with you tonight. And I'll see you guys in a bit. Thanks a lot, Michael. I can't wait
Take care, guys.
Some cool stuff with Lolë.
Bye.
Ciao.